and what we're going to talk about and what we're not going to talk about. Um, we know everyone wants more leads. We want more leads. And we're working to do that. And hopefully in the new year that is something that'll be happening. The purpose of this is to share with you the things we've learned to be successful with leads. Uh, and and we've learned a lot. We've listened to a lot of calls, literally tens of thousands of them. I've listened to hundreds and hundreds. And I'm going to share with you what we've learned so you can be as successful, whether it's with an introduction from Movoto or a sign call or anything else. I'm just going to share with you some of the stuff that best practices, what the agents that are crushing it are doing. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Try that again. Appreciate you guys on a Friday joining us. I know it's the end of the week. Everyone's probably had a long, hard week. We had a big election. Some people happy, some people unhappy. But now we have people that need to help, that we need to help buy and sell homes, and we got to support our families. So we're going to focus on real estate. Um, the two real goals of this. One is just to boost performance of the agents we partner with, and for all of you, and then to make sure everyone has a really clear understanding of the journey, the best practices, and how to be most effective. Um, we partner with top teams and agents. We introduce consumers to them. The consumers come to us from our site, movoto.com. So Movoto, it's probably it's the largest site no one's ever heard of. All right. People have heard of Zillow, they've heard of realtor.com, homes.com. We're the fifth largest. We have 70 to 75 million consumers a year, unique visitors a year come to our site. And they, when they come to our site, they do the same thing that they do on the other sites. They look at homes, they are thinking of maybe selling their home, they want to buy a home. And there's different call to actions. You can see on the right here, it says message an agent or request a tour. We test a lot of different call to actions, but those are a couple of what they look like. When they click on one of those, we ask them for some information. And let me back up a second. We ask for his information. So there's a form they fill out, right? With their phone number, email, name, etc. And then we call them, and we call them immediately, like within seconds. And when we do, we want to determine, the first thing we want to determine is what they need. How do we help them? And does it make sense to connect them to a great agent like one of you? And it's because sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes they just have a question, or they're a nosy neighbor, or they're calling about the photos of their listing and wanting to know why the driveway is stained when they just had it power washed, or whatever the case may be. And then we ask them three questions. Number one, we ask them if they're if they're inquiring about like seeing a home, so they're a buyer, we make sure that they're looking to buy and not rent. Because if they say, no, I'm looking to rent a house, or I want to rent that house, we don't connect them to agents. We also ask them if they're under an exclusive contract with another agent. And if they answer yes to that, we're not going to connect them to an agent. And if they're looking to buy, we'll ask them, do they also have a home to sell? Or if they have a home to sell, we'll ask them, are they also going to be buying a home? And we do that to determine, if they are, what market they're in. So if it's in the same market and we introduce them to one of you, we'll say, hey, they want to see the home at 123 Anywhere Street, but they also have a home to sell. Or they have a home to sell, they're looking for a cash offer, and um, they're going to buy, up or buy down, when they do. Right? So those are the questions we ask. I'm sharing that with you because when we listen to calls, when an agent comes on and asks some of the same questions we ask, it's just annoying to the consumer, and you can hear it in their voice. As I mentioned, this is sort of what happens and what the flow looks like, right? So they're on our site, they fill out a lead form, we call them, we evaluate whether we can help them or how we can help them. And then we introduce them. Most of the time, we try to do it through a live introduction, right? Live introductions are better than cold introductions. It gives the agents an opportunity to set an appointment right there. And that's the key to success on our platform, is the agents that set an appointment on that initial call have a significantly higher conversion rate than the ones that don't. The ones that spend a lot of time qualifying, asking questions, get the lowest results. Now that might feel and sound counterintuitive, but in the world today, people want the easy button. And if they want to see a home, then the agents that get them in front, get them face to face and show them a home are the ones that have the most success. It's the best way to build a relationship, is in a face to face conversation and a face to face interaction. Um, Again, just for some of you that, as a reminder, and some of you this may be new, when we have a consumer on the phone, we get them excited to talk to an experienced local agent. We send out a text notification, is what you see on the left. It says we have a live consumer on the phone. When you click on that link, the next screen pops up, or screen pops up that says accept or decline. And if you accept it and you're the first one to accept it, then you see their contact information, any information that we gathered. So if they inquired about a specific property, it'll show you that specific property. If they were just had a question, it'll say they just have a question. But we want you to have that information as quickly as possible. Now, when we call these consumers and then bring you on to introduce them to you, one of the things that we've learned by listening to lots and lots of calls is that the agents that treat them like an outbound call instead of an inbound call have much higher quality conversations and interactions and have a higher conversion rate. Now, what do I mean? What's the difference between an outbound and an inbound? If one of us gets a call later today from a consumer off a sign, off of the internet, off a mailer, whatever, it would be completely appropriate for us to ask them a lot of questions, see how we can help them. How long have you been looking? How do you find this property? Just all these questions, right? Just like if you go to the doctor, a good doctor is going to ask you a lot of questions so they can diagnose what's going on and figure out what the course of treatment is. That's what good agents do. But when you call someone out of the blue, if you were to call them when we're done with this webinar, just call someone and start asking them a bunch of questions, it's probably going to go something like, hey, who are you? Why are you asking me these questions? And take me off your list, right? This would be a weird thing to do. So treat these like an outbound call, because they are, right? We called them and then we brought you on the line. And furthermore, what I mean by that is they've already told us what they want, right? They want to see the house at 123 Anywhere Street. So when we listen to the calls, the agents that do the best are the ones that come on and jump right into the conversation. Hi, my name is Chris with Heller the Home Seller. We're the local Movoto. I'm the local Movoto agent here. I understand you want to see the property at 123 Anywhere Street. Would you like to do that on Saturday or Sunday? Right. So the agents give them a choice. Give them 2 days. When we hear agents say, when would you like to see it? Inevitably, it seems like the consumer will say a day and the agent will go, well, I can't do it that day. Or could you do it, the day before, the day after? Give the consumer a choice. The goal is to set what we call a hard appointment, which is a very specific appointment. Another thing that we hear is when agents say, when would you like to see the home? And the consumer says, how about tomorrow afternoon? Oftentimes we'll hear the agent say, okay, let me check with the seller and see if that will work, and I'll call you back. Now, what happens in that situation? No appointment was set, the call is ended, and now the agent's going to hopefully try to get that consumer back on the phone, or get them back on the phone, in a timely manner where they still remembered that they wanted to see a home or what home they wanted to see. Always better to set a hard appointment. Give them 2 choices, 2 times that day, set the appointment. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What if the house isn't available? What if we can't show it at that time? What if it's sold? What if it's pending? All those are possibilities. The way that these calls go, the way that the anatomy of a great call is, I come on, I jump into the conversation, say, when would you like to see the property on Saturday or Sunday? Sunday, great. I could do it at 11, or is 3 better for you? 3 o'clock, excellent. By the way, tell me a little more about this home and what interested you in it, or what caught your eye about it, or why did you choose this one? I want to find out with that question, what they're looking for, generally what they're looking for. I'll tell you why in a minute. So then I'm going to say, great, here's what's going to happen next. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to text you my contact information. Again, my name is Chris Heller. And then I'm going to call the seller to confirm that Sunday at 3 o'clock works, and I will get back to you to confirm that with you. But for now, plan on meeting at the house Sunday 3 o'clock. All right. I'm not going to pull up the property while I'm on the phone with them. I'm not going to see if it's available. I'm not going to see anything. I'm not going to try to get smart on it. Right. I'm going to set the appointment. I'm going to have plenty of time to do that after I hang up. Then when I hang up, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to make the appointment. If I find out it's pending or it's sold or it can't be shown that day and that time, then I'm going to, when I call the consumer back to confirm, let's say it's pending. I'm going to call the consumer back and say, hey, this is Chris, calling you back about our appointment on Sunday at 3. I have good news and bad news. The bad news is we can't see that property because it's under contract. The good news is you said that you like purple homes, and I found 2 more purple homes that are in that general area, and I've set up showings on those. I want to tell you about them, and then we'll confirm that we're going to go look at them. So I've already now switched them to another property, and I'm going to meet with them so that I can build that relationship, get an agreement signed, and so on. And by the way, if you guys ask, I'm going to go through this stuff quick because there's a lot of information. If you have questions, feel free to put them in chat, and then I'll hopefully finish in time to answer whatever questions you have. I'm not going to watch chat though while I'm doing this because I can't do 2 things at once. Those live introductions, again, we call it the Connect, Set, Learn. Some coaches call it ALM, but it's the same process. You get the live connection, you set an appointment, and then you learn, what they're interested in, what how you can help them. And the more you can do face to face, the better off you're going to be. These are the 5 things that you want to make sure you get done on the initial call. You bring the energy, have a big smile on your face, get enough information to be able to have some switch properties, set the appointment, set a hard appointment, right? Specific day, specific time, and then tell them what's going to happen next. Also, when you end the call, reintroduce yourself. If I say my name's Chris at the beginning of the call, we talk about what they're looking for. I would set an appointment. I tell them what's going to happen next, and I hang up with them. There's no way they're going to remember my name. All right. So at the end of the call, again, my name is Chris with the Heller the Home Seller team. Be excited to meet with you. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my phone as soon as I hang up with them, and I'm going to record a quick video and say, hey, Jeff, this is Chris, the agent you just talked to. I just want to put a face with a name. Excited to see you Sunday at 3 o'clock. If you need anything or have other questions, here's my contact info. We use a scorecard to grade the calls. And the reason I'm sharing this with you here is so you can see like what we think are important, what we think is important. And these are just 10 yes, no questions, right? They didn't introduce themselves. We listen to calls where the agents never introduce themselves. They have a conversation, they may even set an appointment, and the consumer has no idea who the agent was. Did they sound enthusiastic? Did they sound upbeat? Again, I've listened to calls where the agent sounds like they're being interrupted, like they're being bothered, or they're half asleep or other things. If you're not in a place to take a call, don't take it, right? If you're in the middle of a busy restaurant or your kid's birthday party, don't take it. Make sure you're in a place where you can have a good conversation. I'm not going to read through all these. You can see these, but and I think everyone will get this because we'll send probably the recording of this out. So, or you can take a screenshot. When we call them back, right? There's three outcomes. All right, when we call them back to confirm the appointment, it's like great news. We're all set for Sunday at 3. Property may not be available, so I'm going to tell them that, and I'm going to do it probably in a good news, bad news format. Bad news is we can't go see that property. The good news is I found 3 others. 2 of them we can actually see that day. Now, how to use our tools and why is it important, right? You all have well, hopefully you all have CRMs and you're using and you're updating, but we need updates too. So a couple of things that are important. Um, in the agent tools, in the dashboard, there's the ability for you to create your profile, put your picture in, and some other information. And why is that important? Well, when the consumer, once we've connected the consumer to you, when they go back on the Movoto or looking at other properties, if your profile is complete, then we'll show that to the consumer on each property that they look at, right? To further build that bond, that connection. So if you don't have a profile or it needs to be updated, strongly suggest you do that. Um, snooze feature. The when you log into the dashboard, you can see your agent profile, you can go to your account. There's the snooze feature. What's the snooze feature? It's a pause, right? So if you're um, going into an appointment or going to a football game or whatever it is, and you're not going to be available, then mark yourself as not available. Now, there's limited functionality on our snooze feature, right? In a perfect world, I'd have different types of functionality. You can set it for whatever time period and you can unset it whenever you want. So even if you say I'm snoozing for 2 days, an hour later you can go in and unsnooze yourself, right? So don't get hung up on the time frames. Just remember to snooze and unsnooze when you are available. Sometimes agents will snooze themselves and then wonder why we are not contacting them. And then we look and find out, well, you've been snoozed for the last 3 weeks. Some best practices. You guys all know the old adage of don't judge a book by its cover, right? We all know what that means. Well, we could also say don't judge a lead without knowing what it really means, or don't judge a lead by the price or the location. So here's a question for you. Now, some of you, 298,000 is, right in the price point of your market. Others of you, like my team is in San Diego. There, you can't buy anything for 298,000 in San Diego. Um, so the question is, if you got this lead offer, would you accept it or decline it? Well, the agents that decline it would have missed out because this buyer that came in on this lead, and these are all true, factual, and actual consumers, and what they did ended up buying a house for $1 million. We had a buyer come in on a lot, a $77,000 lot that ended up buying a $630,000 house. We had a buyer that came in on a $100,000 property that ended up buying an island for 4.2 million. We had one that looked at this $365,000 house and ended up buying one for 700,000. This happens day in and day out. We see them all the time. Now, sometimes someone comes in on $1 million listing and buys a $600,000 listing. That happens too. The point is, don't judge the leads. You never know. Here's how we want you to think about them. Is they're all opportunities. When you meet someone at a cocktail party, when you meet them at your kid's soccer game, when you meet them in the grocery store line, when you meet them in an open house, when you meet them because we introduce them to you, you never know what that could lead to, right? Some of those consumers are now business. They're in the market now to list or buy a home. Some of them are future business, right? They're going to do it in 3 months or 6 months. And they all have relationships, which means they're all a referral source, right? They have neighbors, coworkers, family, friends that if you build a relationship with them, you can get referrals from them. I heard this story yesterday. I heard it from my team in San Diego yesterday on a call with a Movoto consumer who's going to be selling her home, but not ready till next year. The agent on my team said, well, since we can't help you right now, is there anyone you know of that we can? She gave him a referral and they have an appointment with that referral already. So you never know what can come from these introductions. Some of the metrics we look at and some of the metrics that you should be aware of is when we send out a notification, we know how long it takes someone to respond. So um, the goal is to respond as quickly as possible because number one, you're maybe competing with other agents for that. So 30 seconds or less is really where you want to be. Now, is that always going to be possible? No. Right? You might be driving. We've all missed text messages. There's a good chance there's one on my phone that I've missed. But whenever possible, we want to respond quickly when we know a message comes in. Over 90 seconds doesn't mean you shouldn't try to accept it, but your chances of winning go down pretty significantly. Update rate. I talked about this at the very beginning of the call, why updating us of the status is important. I'll explain this without going into too much detail. We most of the people that come to our site via a search, and that search is on Google, right? They're looking for homes for sale in Happyville or whatever neighborhood they might be looking for, or homes with pools in Charlotte or whatever market they're in, and responses come up, and Movoto is one of those responses, and they click on it and they're on our site. We give feedback to Google on every consumer that comes to our site. And if the feedback is basically, hey, we want consumers that look like this one, or we don't want consumers that look like this one. And when I say look, I'm not talking about physically how they look or who they are or anything else. I'm talking about what they do. So the consumers that are showing home, that are going to look at homes with our agents, the consumers that are making offers, the consumers that are buying or selling a home, those are the ones we say, hey, we want more of those type of consumers. And when consumers aren't doing those things, we say, hey, these consumers aren't doing things with our agents. We don't want these type of consumers. So the challenge is we rely on you to let us know those things. So that's why updating the status is so important, because it helps both of us, right? The better you can give us, the quicker you can give us updates, the more accurate the updates are. Like if you get introduced to a consumer and now you're showing homes, let us know you're showing homes with them. That's a good sign. If they made an offer on something, let us know they made an offer. If they got an offer accepted, let us know that. Don't wait till the home has closed to say, hey, I closed one. That's good. We want you to do that, but let us know the status as it's happening, because that will help us get more quality consumers, to you. If you haven't already, make sure you're a member of the Movoto Select Network Facebook group. That's where agents are sharing wins and challenges and questions, and we share new things, anything we're doing, anything that's changing, anything we're launching, we do that. We create a lot of videos that agents tell us they really love because it helps them with whether it's training stuff or understanding things. Those are on our YouTube page. It's the Movoto Select Network YouTube page. I went through a bunch of information. I went through it really fast. Now I'm going to look at the chat and see if there's some questions that I can answer. And if you, let me go to the bottom of the chat. I'm still seeing where everyone is from. I love that you guys are here from all over the country. Is there a way to let us know what those answers are before we talk to them? I assume, so Judah asked the question, is there a way to let us know what that is before talking? So again, remember, we asked them, are they looking to buy or rent? Are they under contract with another agent? And do they also have a home to sell? We're not even going to introduce them to you if they're looking to rent or if they're under contract with another agent. So you already know the answers to those two questions. If they also have a home to sell, for some of you that have been with us for a while, up until fairly recently, like I think I could be off on these dates a bit, but I think like in the last 6 to 8 months, we were not able to show you that they were also a buyer or a seller. Now in the dashboard, we're able to do that. So yes, the answer to your question is if they're buying and selling in your market, we do, and we will let you know that. Someone said there's an issue with the sound. I should have seen that at the beginning. Hopefully you guys have been able to hear me this whole time. Why do we get little to no leads if we're not in the Pro Plus program? I've been told there's a waiting list. So So Movoto Pro Plus is just for teams. That's a separate program. It's similar to like Zillow Flex. The Movoto Select Network is for individual agents and anyone else who's not in or on a team. Those are unrelated. If there's not leads, it may just be that we don't have a lot of volume in the area, or we may have a lot of agents in the area. If we don't just add agents to be adding them. That's why we have a wait list, because it doesn't do you or us any good to bring someone on if we don't think we're going to be able to get them any introductions. I never get to preview the referral option. So um, so on so this says I never get to preview the referral option, so I never know what property they're calling on. So when you hit the link, if they're calling on a specific property, it's going to show up. It's going to show up 100% of the time. Now, it may not show up there long because your phone might ring because we're calling you. But really the only thing as an agent, the only thing I need to know to be prepared for when my phone rings is if there's a specific home they want to see, what it is and where it is. So when I come on the line, I can say, hey Jennifer, understand you want to see the property on, 123 Anywhere Street. Would you like to do that on Saturday or Sunday? What if the owner occupied? We need an appointment. It's a little tricky. Yeah, look at we all on any occupied property, you're going to need an appointment, all right? This can't show up, but set a hard appointment. Set it for Sunday at 3 o'clock. You're then going to do what we all do, right? You're going to check the listing, see what the showing instructions are, see what the availability is. If you have to have an appointment, you're going to make an appointment. If you can't get in the property, then you find out when you can, and you call the buyer back when you call them to confirm. Say, hey, excuse me 1 second. You say, hey, Sunday, we were gonna meet at the property Sunday at 3 o'clock. Unfortunately, the seller has a birthday party at the house on Sunday afternoon. So we could do it on Monday or Tuesday afternoon. Which one's better for you? Right? We just adjust. If possible, can we talk about integrating buyer rep agreement if there's anything said? Yeah, Arthur said, if possible, can we talk about integrating a buyer's rep agreement? Is there anything said on Movoto's side? Any guidance? We do. Yeah, great question. When we make an introduction, right after we make the introduction, we send the consumer an email. And in that email, we basically advocate for you. We tell them why it's important to have a great agent and why it's important to be represented. We can't, we don't have the ability to incorporate each of your associations or state buyer agreements ahead of time. What we believe the best practice is, now we do have a touring agreement, and so it tells the buyer that excuse me, it tells the buyer why it's important to have an agent, who the agent is important, and that they'll be signing an agreement with the buyer, excuse me, with the agent. We provide a touring agreement if they click on the link. Most of them don't click on it. The few that do, we sign it. Now, whether they sign the touring agreement or not doesn't change the process that each of us as agents need to go through, right? We still need to meet with the people. We need to explain the process, Mr. and Ms. Buyer, as you may or may not be aware, meeting the buyer, right, at Starbucks, on the driveway, wherever I'm meeting them. You may or may not be aware, but all agents are required to have a representative agreement signed or a buyer brokerage agreement signed to be able to show properties. We don't know each other. So this is how I train my team. Do it the way you're being trained, the way your broker or your association or your team is telling you to do it. I'm just sharing you what we do on our team. Now, we don't know each other, so we're not going to ask you to sign an agreement for the next 3 or 6 months. We have an agreement for this property for today. And then afterwards, we'll talk about your needs. And if we think we can help you and you'd like us to help you, then we'll talk about what that would look like, right? We're going to try to date before we get married. So hopefully I answered that question. Should we mention the buyer's agent's agreement at the same point? Great question. Lauren said, should we mention the buyer's agency agreement while saying the appointment? My suggestion, and this is Chris Heller's suggestion, is not to do that. Uh, it's just a weird thing to do. It's like I think of these introductions as like a blind date. And so if you're being set up on a blind date and you were calling to confirm or saying, okay, yeah, we'll meet tomorrow for lunch or Saturday for dinner, you wouldn't talk about a prenup or getting married or anything else on the phone, right? That wouldn't go well. And it typically doesn't go well to talk to them about something they're not familiar with or understand over the phone. I've seen and I've heard agents do that, and I've heard it go bad more times than not, where the consumer says, you know what, I'm okay, never mind, I'm good, I'll find someone else. It's just a weird thing. We've all hired attorneys, accountants, and have to sign retainer letters or engagement letters. I've never had one of them bring it up on the phone. I've never had that happen. Um, typically you're gonna meet and understand what they do and how they handle their practice and everything else. And then if I want to work with them and they want to work with me, then they're gonna say, great, here's an agreement. I think that's the best practice. We have so many out-of-state buyers looking online, so not able to make an appointment. How do you work that? Great question. If you're in a market like a second home market or a market where most of the people are coming from out of state, my suggestion would be to set a virtual appointment. FaceTime them, go create a video for them, find out what they're looking for. Now, if they're out of state and they're interested in a property in your market and we're connecting them to you, they're not expecting an appointment, right? They're not expecting to fly in. Now you always want to ask, hey, are you going to be, you're going to be in town anytime soon, or do you have any trips scheduled to be here? So and a lot of times you'll hear them say, yeah, we're actually going to be there in 2 weeks, or we're going to be there next month, or actually we're at the airport now. All right, I've heard those conversations. So you want to ask those questions. New York City is very complicated. Set up a showing appointment. It's not like the suburbs. Houses are easy to show. Understand, still recommend the same process. Set an appointment and then call them back, once you've been able to determine whether that appointment will work or not. If you let them off the phone without setting an appointment, you run the risk of not connecting with them again, right? We've all had that happen. We're busy. People call us and then we get on with our lives and they're trying to get a hold of us and it's not a priority for us right then and there, and nothing happens. So make the appointment. Buyer rep agreement, not a requirement. Yeah, look, every agent has the same requirements. We all have to have buyer rep agreement signed, buyer broker agreement signed, whether you choose to do a short-term one or one-day one or a long-term one. My suggestion is you have them all, two or three of them with you, and then you determine which one's the best to use based on the conversation you're having and the situation. Someone said in Texas, we're not allowed to show a home without a buyer rep agreement. That is in every state. You're not allowed to do that. So my referrals aren't wanting to sign the new required agreement. Okay, if your referrals aren't wanting to sign it, I would look at how you're having those conversations. My team's been using them for a while, so and we've never had a challenge getting buyers to sign them. But I think it's all in how it's being presented. I'll share two things that I've shared with thousands of agents. If you are confident and competent in how you explain it, you will win more times than not. If you aren't competent or confident in your presentation, it will cause hesitation. It will cause lack of confidence in the consumer. It will cause yellow flags or red flags to go up. So you want to make sure you get really good at having that conversation. How do you get really good? You practice, you role play every day. Da, 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 da. Stand up when that call comes in. It will make your whole conversation a positive tone. Absolutely agree 100% with Judah said. Stand up when you're. I've been standing up my whole career using stand-up desks. When you're making calls, when you're taking calls, it's just better energy. Tonality is better. Great idea about the video. See if there's any other questions. Some of these are just the same questions, so I'm skipping over them. Yes, we introduce you when we connect the call, but it's always good to say your name again. You know, we've all done that, right? You meet someone for the first time, 10 seconds later, you can't remember what their name is. So repetition and repeating your name is important. Let's schedule an appointment. You should tell them you'll need to confirm the showing. Yeah, like I said, do that. In fact, hey, Jenna, do we have a call that we could play?
We do, Chris, if you look at the deck with the
What's
call scorecard, slide 11. We have a good one that's first and a not so
okay?
good one that's right
Okay,
on.
I missed this because my photo is up at the top of the screen. So I'm gonna play. There are some questions about the calls. I'm gonna play two calls for everyone. One is what it sounds like when we call the consumer. I want you to hear that conversation. So when you come on the line, you know what conversation you're walking into. Hey,
That
Jenna,
call is on slide 7, Chris. So go back a couple. That's the CER call.
okay.
There we go.
Oh, it was hidden over there. Okay. Hey, Jenna, give me the thumbs up if you can hear this.
Hello. Hello. Hi, this is Leanda from Movoto on a recorded line. You were just on our website and requested to view a home out in Newark. Is that right?
Yeah.
Great. My job is to get you connected to a member of our top local team who would set up the viewing with you. I just need to verify that I have the correct email here, which is at live.com. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And since the property is for sale, you're looking to buy and not rent. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, got it. Okay, and are you also selling a property?
I'm not.
No worries. And you're not under a contract with a real estate agent now, are you?
I'm not.
Okay, I'm sending a text to connect you with the team. That should take a quick second, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, and to have your name here, would that be okay to introduce you by?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I wanted to let you know while we wait for the agent, we work with the most experienced local agents and teams, the type you'll feel confident with. Once we are done connecting you, you will also receive an email with the agent's contact information and information regarding working with agents and touring homes. I actually have a member of our team on hold ready to set up the viewing. Just hold on, I'm connecting you, okay?
Okay.
Hello, Derek. Hi, Leanda
Yeah.
here from Movoto on a recorded line. I have on the other line wanting to speak with the local team. He's looking to buy. I'm connecting you, okay?
Yes.
All right, so that's what it sounds like when we call the consumer. Pretty straightforward. Most of the time they have questions, so the call's longer than that. That one may have been edited. But those are the things we say to the consumer. So when you come on the line, you'll know what was said. Hey, Jenna, how are we doing on time?
We said it'd be 40 minutes, so we're right at time, but folks
Okay.
who have time can stay on if you have time, Chris.
Yeah, I can stay on for a few. If you I want to honor the fact that we said it'd be 40 minutes. I thought I'd talk fast enough to get through it. I didn't. But if you need to go, have a great weekend and thank you for being here. If you have more time, I'm going to answer some more questions. One of the questions says, when I get your text, lead text, I have the phone in my hand immediately. I click on the link and usually it says the lead is no longer available. I must have a slower connection than others do. It could be that sometimes the consumers hang up too, right? And so, because they've been on the phone with us for a while, we're waiting for agents to respond, and sometimes they get impatient. So it could be, some carriers, you might have two people get a call, a message go out to T-Mobile and AT&T at the same time, and in some areas, one might be quicker than the others. Those are all possible. It says, are certain agents getting leads quicker than others in the same market? No. There was over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, actually maybe longer than that, We did do that where we would text agents in groups. Like send a text out to 5, no response, send a text out another 5. So if you were in that second 5 and then all of a sudden someone in that first 5 responded, that yes, they could have gotten it sooner, but now it's all at the same time. How do we know if we are on Pro Plus? You would know, your team would know. And if you aren't and you're interested in finding out about that, tell your team leader to contact us. Jenna, you can make sure my contact and our contact information is in the chat. And any of you that have any questions, you can connect with me on social media, on any social media platform. I've had several scammers reach out through Movoto. Any way to report those? Yes, absolutely. If you get anything that you need to report, support at movoto.com is how you communicate any of that with us. I love working with Movoto leads. I've closed 30 leads. Since all leads have gone to Pro Plus, I've not received any buyer leads since 2023. Is that happening in all markets? No, Joanne, that's not happening in all markets. And message me, Joanne, so I can look at your account and see in your market if there's opportunities that you should be getting that for some reason you aren't. More questions about the buyer broker agreement, which we always talked about. Best script to get the buyer agreement signed prior to showing the home. So Brian, I think the best script is just to be straightforward. I'm face to face with the buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, before we look at the home. There are a couple things I want to go over. I want to make sure you understand the process, as you may or may not be aware, because they're not aware. All agents are required to have an agreement signed in order to show a property. And that with agreement explains what representation is, how we represent you, how we get compensated, what we get compensated. Those agreements are usually for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever they are. I have one that's a 3-day agreement because I don't believe in trying to convince someone to work with me who hasn't met me yet or hasn't experienced the level of service I can provide. Let's do this. This will cover us for getting the house. Sign this. Afterwards, I like to spend a couple minutes and share with you what we do or what I do that's different and unique, or how I help people, and then we can decide if we want to work together moving forward. All right, I'd just be straightforward. My buyer broker doesn't permit a touring agreement. Yeah, some don't. I present a single day agreement prior to entering the house. Takes a couple of minutes right in front of the house. Goes well. I don't bring a paper. I have them sign it before we go. Yeah. My feeling is it's always best to build a relationship, and the easiest way to do that is face to face. All right, I'm not going to get through all these messages. I see there's like another 95 on I'm scrolling through. These are great questions. We'll do our best to maybe, Jenna, what we can do is we can take a bunch of these questions. I can record a video answering a bunch of them, and then we can send that out to everyone if there's questions we haven't got to.
We can do that.
All right. All right. Again, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate partnering with you. Have a great weekend. Hopefully this was beneficial. Hopefully this was useful. And if there's other things that we can do that would be, please let us know. Thanks for joining us.